viewers, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today our topic is the development of reproductive system. So as we know that there are three germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. And the mesoderm further splits and divides into the three parts, that is paraxial mesoderm, intermediate mesoderm and the lateral plate mesoderm. And the reproductive system, it develops from the intermediate mesoderm. So now the cellular and molecular changes occurs in the intermediate mesoderm and the urogenital ridge is formed. Then the urogenital ridge, it gives rise to the gonads, which forms the testes or ovaries, testes in males and ovaries in females. It also gives rise to the ductal system, also gives rise to the primordial germ cells, which forms the sperm in males and oocytes in females. Now this is the sagittal section of 4th to 5th week embryo, and we can see that this is the gut tube, foregut, midgut and hindgut. We can see the vitelline duct connecting the yolk sac and the gut tube, and we can also see in the sagittal section the urogenital ridge in the red color. So we can also see the blind-ended structure at the end, which is called as the cloaca, and cloaca has an anterior division and a posterior division. The anterior division gives rise to the urogenital sinus, which is basically the external genitalia, and posterior division, it gives rise to the anal canal. Now what changes occurs in the 4th to 5th week, that the primordial germ cells from the yolk sac migrate towards the urogenital ridge after the 6th week of the development, and during this arrival the epithelium of the genital ridge, the epithelium of this ridge proliferates and forms a number of the irregularly shaped cords, which are called as the primitive sex cords, and it is connected to the surface of the epithelium. At this stage, it is indifferentiate, that is, it is impossible to differentiate between the male and female gonads, so it is called as the indifferent gonad. Also, one important point, that the key to the sexual dimorphism is Y chromosome, which contains the testis determining factor. The Y chromosome in the males is the sign of the male baby, which contains the testis determining factor, that is, which contains the SRY gene on short arm chromosome, which contains the YP11. Now we are seeing, after the 6th week of the development, some changes in the genital ridge have been developed and some structures have been formed. So now let's discuss these structures. We can see that the structure here, this is the whole structure inside the genital ridge. These are the gonads in the red structure, and outside the gonads we can see that the dark blue marker structures, these are called as the mesonephric ducts, which is also called as the Wolffian ducts, which opens into the urogenital sinus. And the structures in the light blue marker, they are called as the paramesonephric ducts, which are called as the Mullerian ducts. And the structure in the brown, you can see this is called as the gubernaculum. You can see that the paramesonephric ducts unite and form a common structure here. This is called as the uterine canal. And at the end we can see that this structure here, this is called as the urogenital sinus. We have to differentiate between the male and female gonad, and some chromosomal changes occurs. So we know in previous classes we have studied that the gonads are of two types. When there is XY chromosome, there is a male baby, and when there is XX chromosome, there is a female baby. When XY chromosome appears, changes in the medulla occurs, like this is the cell and this is the medulla. When there is male baby, changes in the medulla occurs and all the structures develop from here. And when there is female baby, that is XX chromosome, changes in the cortex occur, outer side of the cortex, changes in the cortex occurs. So we know that SRY gene, which is present in the males, it is the master gene for the testes development. When the changes occurs in the medulla, medullary cords develop, then SRY gene becomes positive, and it is the main factor which determines the male baby. Then testis determining factor TDF appears and testes are formed. What are the testes? Testes structure is made up of seminiferous tubules, retitestes, Leydig cells and Sertoli cells. Leydig cells produce the testosterone and Sertoli cells produce the Mullerian inhibiting factor, that is the MIF. In testes, there is a special structure which is called as tunica albuginea. Tunica albuginea separates the testis cord from the surface of epithelium. Now, testes produce two type of hormones or neurotransmitters, we can say. They are called as the testosterone and Mullerian inhibiting factor. By the 8th week of the development, Leydig cells produce the testosterone, which causes the growth of mesonephric ducts. When the testosterone is produced, it causes the growth of the mesonephric ducts further. Then the mesonephric ducts produce epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, and common ejaculatory duct. And at the same time, Sertoli cells produce the Mullerian inhibiting factor, which is also called as the anti-Mullerian hormone AMH, which inhibits the growth of the paramesonephric ducts. Paramesonephric ducts does what? It causes the growth of fallopian tube, uterus, and upper two-thirds of vagina. These structures are not present in males. That's why they are inhibited in the males and they appear in the females. That's why I have written it that it inhibits the growth of paramesonephric ducts. Don't confuse it. I have written inhibit. It does not form these structures in males. These structures are formed in females. Now, one important point, that the testosterone is also acted upon by the enzyme which is called as the 5-alpha reductase. It converts the testosterone into the dihydrotestosterone, and it stimulates the male genitalia. Later on in this video we will discuss the male genitalia and its important components. So whenever MCQ or short SCQs are asked from you, you have to mention it that what stimulates the male genitalia. Dihydrotestosterone, which is produced by 5-alpha reductase enzyme, it stimulates the male genitalia. Okay, so we have almost covered the male gonad. Now comes to the female, that when there is XX chromosome appears, cortical changes occurs and cortical cords develop. So when XX gene appears, SRY gene is negative, no testis determining factor appears, no Mullerian inhibiting factor is found. When there is no Mullerian inhibiting factor, the fallopian tube, uterus, and upper two-thirds of vagina develops. And also there is production of ovaries. In ovaries there are follicular cells and oocytes are produced. The follicular cells produce the estrogen, which stimulates the female genitalia. You have to differentiate the female genitalia and male genitalia. The MCQs do not mix. Whenever there is asked from MCQs, you should be able to differentiate. Dihydrotestosterone produces the male genitalia and estrogen produces the female genitalia. Now we have in the structure, you can see this structure. We have discussed the paramesonephric ducts, which causes the female gonads development, and mesonephric ducts, which causes the male gonads development. And there is another structure, that is the gubernaculum. What is the role of the gubernaculum in the males and females? I have written it. Gubernaculum in the males, it guides the descent of the testes into the scrotum from abdominal cavity. First, the testes are present in the abdominal cavity, but when the gubernaculum structure is formed, it guides the testes to descend down into the scrotum from the abdominal cavity. And in females, what is the role of gubernaculum? It guides the descent of the ovaries or ductal system into the pelvic cavity. And in females, it also forms the two ligaments, that is ovarian ligament and round ligament. After the development of all these structures, now we are able to differentiate between the male and female gonads. You can see that on the left side, this is the male gonadal structure and this is the female gonadal structure. You can see there is the testes, this is the ovaries, this is the mesonephric duct, and the paramesonephric duct. Gubernaculum is same on both the sides, but their function is different in the male and females. And on the females, in females, this structure is called as the sino-vaginal bulbs, which forms the vaginal plate. And we know that the vagina has two parts, upper part and lower part. Upper part is derived from the uterine canal and the lower part is derived from the urogenital sinus. The urogenital sinus give rise to two structures, that is bladder and urethra. Now discuss the main components of external genitalia in both males and females After the development of the external genitalia components, we will be able to differentiate between a male and female baby. So now the main components are, we can see that this is the genital tubercle. These are the labioscrotal swellings. In males, the labioscrotal swelling are separated by the scrotal swellings, and the blue structure, thin blue structure which are drawn, these are called as the urethral folds. This is the another view of the reproductive system, in which we can see that this is the cloaca. The black structure, this is the cloaca. This is the connected structure. But after the development of the urorectal septum, the space, you can see it divides the cloaca into two parts. The upper part is called as urogenital sinus, which is from blue shaded part. You can see this is the urogenital sinus here. This is the urogenital sinus, and the upper part is called as the allantois, and the lower part is called as the anal canal. So the urorectal septum divides the cloaca into two parts, which is the urogenital sinus and anal canal, and this is the genital tubercle. So there are basically four structures: genital tubercle, labioscrotal swellings, urogenital sinus, and urethral folds, which will give rise to different structures, different external genitalia structures in male and female. So the reactions or the hormones that causes the conversion of these structures into various structures, that is, in males there is dihydrotestosterone, which causes the conversion of genital tubercle, labioscrotal swelling, urogenital and urethral folds into the various structures, and in females the estrogen causes the conversion and the various reactions here. So in males, the genital tubercle forms glans penis, corpus spongiosum, and corpus cavernosum. In females, the genital tubercle forms clitoris and vestibular bulbs. In males, labioscrotal swelling, as the name indicates, it forms the scrotum, and in females it forms the labia majora. In males, the urogenital sinus forms the prostatic urethra, membranous urethra, prostate gland, and bulbourethral gland. But in females, the urogenital sinus forms female urethra and paraurethral glands. In males, the urethral folds form shaft of the penis and penile urethra, and in females it forms the labia minora. So these are the important components that you have to remember, whether for the MCQs or whether for the SCQs, so you can write it accordingly. The important points that I have written, which is very important for the MCQs: the lumen of vagina separated from that of the urogenital sinus in females by thin tissue plate, which is called as hymen, which is present in females. In males, the rapid elongation of the genital tubercle in males. You can see the rapid elongation of genital tubercle. The oval shaped structure is formed, which is called as the phallus. This is the tip of the end of the penis. It forms the phallus. Testes reach the inguinal region by the 12 weeks, migrate through the inguinal canal by 28 weeks, and reach the scrotum by 33 weeks. And this process is caused by the androgens and Mullerian inhibiting factor. In females, there are two ligaments, cranial ligament and caudal ligament. Cranial ligament forms the suspensory ligament, and caudal ligament forms the ligament of ovary proper and round ligament of the uterus. So this ends the structure and the development of the reproductive system. Now we will discuss the clinicals related to this topic. First is the duplication of the uterus. It occurs due to the lack of the fusion of paramesonephric ducts. When there is no fusion of paramesonephric ducts, duplication of uterus occurs, and there are various anomalies of the duplication of the uterus. The first is the uterus bicornus, in which the uterus has two horns entering a common vagina. You can see I have drawn the uterus bicornus. This is the two uterus entering a common vagina. This is the uterus bicornus. Also, there is uterus didelphys with double vagina. Uterus didelphys means there are two vagina and two uteruses. There are the two vagina. These are the two uteruses, and there are two vagina. This is also due to the lack of the fusion of paramesonephric ducts. Then there is another anomaly or condition in which there is uterus bicornus unicolous with one rudimentary horn. This is the rudimentary horn. There is no vaginal opening or no fusion with this uterus. So there is the rudimentary horn and no vagina with this occurs. And this is the uterus bicornus unicolous. There is one uterus and with one vagina with thin opening. There is another which is called as a cervical atresia. Atresia means there is enlargement of the cervix, and there is the structure is blocked by the uterus. And another is the vaginal atresia, in which the open part of the vagina occurs through the uterus. Is the hypospadias. Hypospadias, fusion of urethral folds is incomplete in males. This condition occurs in males when the urethral folds is incomplete in males. Abnormal openings of urethra along the inferior aspect of the penis occurs, and it occurs because of the developmental estrogens are increased. Epispadias, when the urethral meatus or ring-like structure is found on the dorsum of the penis. Dorsum means on the back side of the penis, urethral meatus or a ring-like structure is present. It causes the epispadias, and it occurs because of exostrophy of the bladder. Exostrophy of the bladder means that is enlargement of the bladder or abnormal closure of ventral body wall. Then there is the micropenis. Penis is caused by the insufficient androgen stimulation for the growth of the external genitalia. We know that the androgen stimulation is necessary for the growth of the external genitalia. When there is deficient androgen stimulation, micropenis is caused. Micro means small and penis means penis. There is a small penis, and it is also caused by primary hypogonadism or hypothalamic or pituitary dysfunction. When there is dysfunction or deficiency, or when there is dysfunction of the hypothalamus and pituitary gland are not functioning properly, they are not producing hormones properly, then the micropenis is caused. Anomaly is the congenital direct inguinal hernia. Connection between the abdominal cavity and processus vaginalis remains open. Normally, the connection between the abdominal cavity and processus vaginalis closes in the first year after the birth, normally. But when there is this anomaly, inguinal hernia, the intestinal loops may descend into the scrotum. Intestinal loops descend into the scrotum, and the connection remains open, which causes this hernia. Then another is cryptorchidism. It is caused by the decreased androgen production. Undescended testes fail to produce the mature spermatozoa. We know that the gubernaculum structure, which I have mentioned in the previous pages, brown color structure, it causes the descent of the testes into the scrotum. But in this condition, cryptorchidism, there is no descent of the testes. Testes do not descend, and they do not produce the mature sperms or spermatozoa. It is also associated with renal anomalies. Kidneys anomalies is also associated with this. Then another is ambiguous genitalia. When there is large clitoris or small penis, it is associated with different characteristic of both the sexes, that is male and female gonadal structures. Male and female gonadal characteristics have in this condition. Clitoris is very large and penis is very small, and they have the ovotestes. Next is the congenital adrenal hyperplasia. As the name suggests, that is congenital, it is by birth, and adrenal gland hyperplasia. Hyperplasia means increase in the number of the cells. Abnormalities in the adrenal gland. Adrenal gland associated with abnormalities. In this condition, there is decreased steroid hormone production and increase in the adrenocorticoid thyroid hormone. In rare cases, there is also 17-alpha hydroxylase deficiency and inability of the adrenal gland or the ovaries to produce the sex hormones, and no breast development or growth of the pubic hair occurs in this condition. Next is the complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, CAIS. In this condition, vagina is present, which is usually short or poorly developed. Testes are found in the inguinal or labial region. Spermatogenesis does not occur, and increased risk of the testicular tumors. Next is the 5-alpha reductase deficiency. We have discussed in the previous pages, that is the 5-alpha reductase is involved in the conversion of the testosterone into the dihydrotestosterone. This conversion will not occur in this case, and external genitalia do not develop normally and may appear male with hypospadias. We have discussed the condition with hypospadias, and they also may appear female with clitoromegaly. Clitoris will be enlarged. The last one is the gonadal dysgenesis, which is also called as the Swyer syndrome. Point mutation or deletion of SRY gene. When there is no SRY gene, this anomaly occurs. Oocytes are absent, but individuals are normal females but do not menstruate and do not develop secondary sexual characteristics at puberty. They do not have oocytes, they do not menstruate, so they do not develop secondary sexual characteristics at puberty. They have also Turner syndrome, and we know that Turner syndrome have the 45X karyotype. They have the short stature, high arch plate, webbed neck, cardiac and renal anomalies. Cardiac and renal anomalies, webbed neck, and inverted nipples are also stated in this condition. So I hope you have understand the development of the reproductive system and the anomalies associated with it. Any confusion, you can ask me in comments. If you like the video, please like, subscribe and share it with your friends. Allah Hafiz.